Welcome to our Landmark Preservation Commission. That was to get everyone's attention. We'll begin by, so this is our July 15th meeting. Welcome. Thank you for joining us in person and online. First, we'll begin with commission introductions. I'm calling this meeting to order at 1:01. I'll begin. My name is Erica Warzel. I'm an architectural historian and preservation consultant, and I was nominated by the community at large. Emily, would you like to go next?
Emily Hazen. I'm a preservationist and designer nominated by City Planning.
My name is Chris McGinnis. I'm a forensic architect, and I was nominated by the mayor's office.
I'm Nick Fusianis. I'm an architect and a developer, and I was nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
Elizabeth Caswell-Dyer. I own Soper Communities, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
My name is Bree Saman. I'm an interior designer and project manager, and I was nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
I'm Rusty Brown. I'm an architect. I was nominated by AIA.
Loris Billman, serving at large, nominated by mayor, first time.
Welcome, Lars.
And I'm Brittany Bryant, Denver Landmark Preservation staff.
All right. We do have a, could you go back just for a second? Just want to make sure. Okay. Generally, we have a moment for general comments, but from either commissioner staff, I don't think we have any at the moment. So let's do our meeting records for approval, and then we'll get to audio tips for those of you joining us virtually. So we have a meeting record from our July 1st meeting. Commissioners, do you have any comments or edits that you would like to see made to those meeting records? Yeah. All right, I think those are now approved. We don't have to have a formal motion or vote for that. So then we're ready to move on to the next portion of our meeting. But first, some audio tips for those of you joining us virtually. For better sound quality, we strongly encourage you to have Zoom on your device, where you can click audio settings to bring up an additional menu, such as adding background noise suppression and testing your devices to adjust maximum output volumes. If you will be presenting or giving a public comment virtually, when it's your turn to speak, you'll need to unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. And from there, you can also expand the menu to reveal additional options to test your speaker and microphone and adjust their output volumes. If you still have audio challenges, we suggest you switch to your phone for audio. All right. It's really slow, so I'm going to try to be patient as we move from slide to slide. Next, we have our public comment period. So this is slightly different than it has been in the past, where we would hear from the public commenting on specific projects. But instead, we have our public comment for all agenda items and historic preservation in general up front for our meeting. This does not include applicants who are part of a team giving a presentation on their project. So if you would like to make a comment either for historic preservation in general or any items on our agenda, such as design review, business items, discussion items, or consent agenda, we ask that you let us, or you can raise your hand online, or you can indicate here in person by raising your hand, and we'll call on you in order. You will have up to 2 minutes to speak. We don't have any public hearing items, which are slightly different, so I'll leave that aside. For those of you joining us virtually, if you'd like to make a comment, we ask that you raise your hand via the button in Zoom. Or does that work for Teams? Yes. Okay.
It should be the same.
There should be, we are using a different format for online at the moment with Microsoft Teams. So there should still be a hand raise button in that application. If you're having trouble, you can dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if you're joining by phone. If you're having issues with either of these, we suggest that you email landmark@denvergov.org to provide your name and phone number so that we can recognize you and we can call on you through that way. So I think what we'll do is we'll hear from those folks in person who would like to make a public comment first. Again, you'll have up to 2 minutes. We will have a timer up on the screen. And it can be, again, about preservation in the city in general, or if it's about a particular project, you can do that as well. Let's keep it a little bit organized, and we'll first start with any general public comments about preservation in general, not a specific project. Would anyone like to make a comment in that regard? Okay. We do have some consent agenda items. Are there any folks here who would like to make a comment on a consent agenda item?
That would be an item that's on the agenda, right?
So thank you for that question. Consent agenda is one portion of the agenda that, could we pull
Hold on.
that up? Sorry.
It's clunky with Teams.
So consent agenda is one portion of our overall agenda that is typically recommended for our approval without discussion. But we can hear from the public about those projects ahead of time if you'd like to make that. So right now we have that consent agenda up on our screen. That does not include the 2 design review projects that we have, which are the accessory dwelling unit and the Wyman Historic District and the Civic Center Greek Theater rehabilitation. So if, aside from those 2 projects on design review, if there's anyone who would like to make a comment on consent agenda, you can raise your hand.
I guess.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
If you would please,
Come to the computer.
yes, if you would come to this table here and sit, and if you would begin with your name.
My name is Cy Davis. And I guess I'm at 1609 Roslyn Street here in Denver. But I've been an active member of the Friends of Red Rocks organization since 2009. And I also participated in the founding of Friends of Red Rocks back in 1999 and 2000. I was notably involved with the National Historic Landmark designation. Friends of Red Rocks is a 501c3 organization, and we're grassroots, and our mission is to preserve the magic of the park. Our guiding light is to make sure it stays within the vision of Burnham Hoyt, the original architect. Those 2 things said, our organization would like to express the approval of the items that are on, the agenda today. We're unanimous about the storage hub. Storage is, something, it's in short supply at Red Rocks. We're always looking for places to store things. We did have some dissent on the East Terrace, mostly because of its incursion into the natural area. But that said, we saw that there are some sketches from Burnham Hoyt that I mentioned before, the original architect, and for that reason, we don't see any issue with it. We'd also like to acknowledge support for a letter that was submitted on July 8th by Steve Good. I believe it was circulated, possibly, yeah, okay. We just see a lot of value in setting up some predetermined guidelines for the park. guidelines that all the stakeholders can agree upon?
I'm so sorry, your time is up.
Okay,
But
That's
thank
it.
you, we did receive that letter.
All right.
and appreciate
yeah,
it.
thank you so much, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Safety, thanks.
Is it okay to go online to ask anyone rather than splitting them up? So rather than open it up for other comments on design review agenda items, I'm going to first ask if there's anyone online who would like to make a comment on any of our consent agenda items before we move on to other public comment. This would be the time to raise your hand virtually. We'll give it a pause here just because it's running a little slow.
No.
All right, it doesn't look like it. So now we will open it up to anyone who would like to make a comment on first the first design review item, which is 1330 North Humboldt Street in the Wyman Historic District. So anyone in person who would like to make a comment on that? Okay. Is there anyone online who would like to make a comment on that first design review agenda item? Can we still see if someone raises their hand? Okay. Okay. We will now move to our second design review agenda item. This is for 101 West 14th Avenue Parkway in Civic Center Park, the rehabilitation of the Greek Theater and other items. If you would like to make a comment on that, would you please raise your hand and I'll call upon you to, one by one to come to the table. Ma'am, if you'd like to come to this table.
Okay.
Again, if you would start with your name. Sure. And you have up to 2 minutes.
My name is Vicki Vernick. I'm the principal of Compassion Road Academy, which is located in the Golden Triangle at 1000 Cherokee. I'm here to express our support as a school for the renovations of the Greek Theater and the positive impact it'll have on our students, staff, and families. We don't have any type of theater in our little building, which I think was previously someone's office a long time ago. We have to go off-site to do things like any type of improv or plays or any kind of theater that we want to do. And our graduation can never be anywhere on site either. So the idea that we could have something that's close by our school, and we really try to use our school, use the neighborhood as part of our classroom. And unless it's accessible, we can't do that because we're a public school. So we can't have an event that isn't ADA accessible and doesn't have that for our community. And I re-reviewed, I'd written a letter of support previously, but I wanted to just re-review after looking at the renderings again. I really think that the wood seats are very inviting and would be good for our community rather than the hot concrete, which is something we'd have to consider for outdoor events. I really love that the material looks really light and lets in a lot of light for the roof. And from a historical standpoint and for a teachable moment for our students, recognizing the Gang of 19 entry and the significance of that, even just as a field trip for our students to be able to go and learn about that, even if we're not having an event, to just kind of look at the Greek Theater for a historical field trip in itself. So those are my comments.
Right.
Thanks
Thank you.
for considering.
All right. Would you like to come up, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Church. I live at 2058 Vine Street. I'm an urban planner who works for Sasaki. We were the design firm that was hired by the city to lead the downtown area planning effort. So I speak today in favor of the plans for the Greek Amphitheater and for the Civic Center Next 100 plans more generally. As a part of the downtown planning effort, Civic Center was identified as a key focus area that should be prioritized within that plan for investments and enhancements. Improvements in the park outlined in the plans, including the amphitheater, the renovations to the McNichols building, all of that will be transformative and catalytic for the new private investment around the park. There are opportunities for literally thousands of new housing units, new office, new retail on properties adjacent to this park, but it's going to be really important for the investments in the park to happen first to spark those changes for the surrounding district. Additionally, I speak to you today as a person who works 2 blocks away from Civic Center, so I'm incredibly excited and encouraged by the plans that are laid out for the park, and so I'm very supportive of them. And see Civic Center as an opportunity to continue to anchor civic life in Denver for decades to come. So,
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person? Would you like to speak?
Hello, my name is Stacey Passmore. I'm a resident of Denver. I live in the Alamo Placida Historic Neighborhood. I'm also a landscape architect and a planner, and my firm, Super Bloom, also works on many cultural landscapes and historic landmark projects. We are also the landscape architect for 2 adjacent projects, the Denver City and County Building, which is also a landmark building, and the Populous Hotel, which are both directly adjacent to the park. So I'm here to express my strong support for the project. I think that the design really balances better usability of the park and also really enhances the expression of the site's historic character. The architectural detailing of the new design, I think it's both appropriate and also strengthens the connection to the park's original neoclassical ideals. I think it really honors the historic structure by differentiating itself as well, but also being restrained in its detailing while using, materials, forms, and proportions that really speak to kind of the way that neoclassical design intended. As far as the landscape, I'm really excited about the inclusion of more native planting, more sustainable approaches to landscaping, moving away from, the annual gardens, which now kind of occupy that central lawn, and kind of reorienting how, we may celebrate Colorado's native landscapes as well. But I also think that that will really enhance the intention of like the historic palette and those patterns as well. And, in general, I think the design of the pathways are very elegant and really complement the park's overall historic character. So I'm really excited to see the project come to life, and thank you for having me comment.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in person who would like to make a comment? Yes, will you please join us at the table?
Hello, my name is Lisa Pope. I live downtown, and I'm the president of the Upper Downtown Neighborhood Association. I previously provided written public support for the vision for the Civic Center Park at the January 21st hearing. The Upper Downtown Neighborhood Association remains in full support of the vision and design for Civic Center Park. The plans for the park will provide activation, connection, building community, and more importantly, provide a beautiful place for all residents of Denver to enjoy. The materials selected for the pathways, the Gang of 19 Educational Garden, and the Greek Theater, including the deep champagne steel canopy, will not only bring renewed life to the park, but will also complement and maintain the integrity of Civic Center as the historical treasure that it is. I hope that the Landmark Preservation Committee approves this next phase of the vision for Civic Center Park.
Thanks. All right, anyone else? Yes.
Hello again. My name is John Deffenbaugh. I'm CEO of Historic Denver at 1420 Ogden Street. We are supportive of this project. It's certainly a project which has encouraged strong feelings amongst the preservation community. Some of our board members have used terms such as beautiful, elegant, and positively surprised. Others worry that it's moving too fast and about the implications of that. We are supportive. There are 2 areas that we would ask for further scrutiny. One is the elevator housing, which is a very prominent item next to the wall of civic benefactors, and also the South Plaza. We absolutely believe that there needs to be a memorial to the Gang of 19, but we would ask for further scrutiny, and we would also suggest that scrutiny of these 2 items the elevator housing and the Gang of 19 Memorial on the South Plaza be delegated to staff with this project approval. We thank the design team for this very elegant, very functional proposal. I would also draw a contrast with proposal on the other side of Civic Centre, which may be coming to you in the near future, with the unnecessary, just absolutely unnecessary need for that piece of infrastructure. This project, on the other hand, delivers intentional and beautiful accessibility in a way that it should be done and we should all be proud of. So thank you very much.
Right, last call for in-person making a comment. Oh, okay, we have two. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Daniel Wachter. I'm the president and CEO of the Colorado Symphony. And on behalf of the Colorado Symphony Association, I wish to express our enthusiastic support for Denver Parks and Recreation's proposed improvement. As an organization to expanding access to inclusive, artistically excellent programming for all Colorado residents and visitors, we stand firmly behind this important proposal to improve a historically vital yet underused space. The improvements being put forward are crucial to the theater, the park, and the city's future as one of the nation's most culturally vibrant destinations. The Greek Theater is currently difficult to performing for a variety of reasons, from outdated infrastructure to barriers to lack of accessibility. These challenges have inhibited the activation of City Center Park and limited the ability for artists and organizations like the Colorado Symphony to consistently utilize and program the space. The Civic Center Next 100 plan honors the park's historic character while thoughtfully adapting for its future. So we see those improvements addressing current barriers, unlocking the theater's potential and allowing it to serve as the cultural and civic stage it was always intended to be. So if supported, the Colorado Symphony would work towards a greatly increased presence in Civic Center Park. A renovated Greek theater would allow for more outdoor concerts during summer and expand opportunities to bring live symphonic music to our community, creating a more vibrant downtown Denver and a richer, more accessible cultural landscape for all. So therefore, we strongly encourage to approve the design details being proposed, and the investing in this proposal we see as an investment in Denver's artistic future and cultural legacy, supporting a wider diversity of art and artists in our city for generations to come. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
It's always great when I don't have to interrupt folks. When
It
was perfect timing. Yes, if you'd like.
Hi there, I'm Eric Lazari and I live on South Monroe Street in the Corey Merrill neighborhood. I serve as the executive director of the Civic Center Conservancy, and we have been working for 20 years alongside the community and the city to realize the ideals of the 2005 Civic Center Master Plan and the resulting guidelines as well. In that spirit, the Conservancy enthusiastically supports this application and hope you recommend approval for the Civic Center, this first phase of the Civic Center Next 100 project. For a public space to be active, the design details and materials we use are critical to creating a space to create that invitation for people to use it. Whether it be the placement of a tree, the adding of a commemoration, wood to sit on, illuminating a dark corner, feeling a soft surface underfoot while transitioning the park. These all contribute to how one will experience Civic Center Park. These choices and decisions matter also to the event producer and the cultural entities that are going to help activate the park. The approach taken by the design team has been extremely sensitive to the design guidelines, sensitive to the historic nature, and even reverent to what we've all come to love as Civic Center Park. Upon completion of this project, we expect the Greek Theater and the rest of Civic Center Park will return to a center of community activity that it was in the early 1900s when it was first conceived and built, honoring the historic intent of the theater and the park and providing an elegant 21st century layer on top of this beautiful historic campus. Thank you for the time today, and thank you for your support of this project.
Thank you. All right, one last call for in-person comments on Civic Center. Right, looks like we have heard from everyone here. For those of you online, if you would like to make a comment on the Civic Center Design Review agenda item, please raise your hand and I will call on you. It's hard for me to kind of see. It looks like we have one. Okay. So we'll hear from Ozzy Friedrich first. And again, you have up to 2 minutes. So when you're able to unmute yourself, please feel free to begin with your name.
Sure, thanks. My name is Ozzy Friedrich, 528 West First Avenue. And I'm just speaking as a member of the community and as an architect who has done work in Civic Center Park in the past. And I just wanted to exclaim about how dazzled I am by this proposal, particularly by the radical openness of the stage that has created the new structure and the way that the space of the park seamlessly flows around it, and the way that it enhances the principal north-south axis of the park. This is a really special piece of architecture, and I'm thrilled to think that we might get to have it in our city. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ozzy. Next, we can hear from Janine. Sorry, I should have worn my glasses. Janine Bragg. Again, once you're able to unmute yourself, you'll have up to 2 minutes.
Okay, hi there. My name is Janine Bragg. I live in the Park Hill subdivision of Denver, and I've also spent a lot of time in the Golden Triangle and Civic Center. My career has encompassed about 30 years in the performing and visual arts, and I previously worked for Curious Theater Company, as well as serving a stint on the Golden Triangle Creative District Board. So I'm very familiar with the site, and I'm very familiar with theater. And I think these changes will make that theater very usable. I echo what my colleague from the symphony said. It's a very difficult space to use right now as a performer or frankly as an audience member. The accessibility this plan allows also contributes greatly to that usability as a theater and performance space. And I just urge you to vote in favor of these changes, which will bring the theater back to its original purpose, which is presentations for the community. And that's it. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. Next, we have a phone number.
9659.
And if you would, again, you can unmute yourself when you're ready, and you'll have 2 minutes. Please begin with your name. Oh, okay. Looks like maybe that person decided not. Oh, okay. Are you there?
Hi. Yes, hi. My name is Bob Diniger. I'm a resident of downtown Denver, longtime transit advocate, and a big fan of the design work that has been done, particularly with regard to the Gang of 19. I think that's just a very resonant and inspiring piece of work. I'm speaking for myself as a citizen of downtown Denver, as well as a member of ADAPT, and I wanted to urge you to vote in favor of the project writ large. The idea of renovating the Greek Theater to make it more user-friendly to both performers and audience is wonderful, and the ability for future generations to learn about the Gang of 19 is a noble cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online who would like to make a comment on the Civic Center Design Review agenda item?
Great, one more.
Right, we have one other person raising their hand. My glasses. Meg, Meg, thank you. It's so tiny on there. Meg, if you would please begin with your name, and then you have 2 minutes. Meg, if you would like to make a comment, I think you're still muted. If you're not wanting to make a comment after all, you can put your hand down. I'm sorry, what, Taylor?
I've given her the ability to
Permission.
unmute.
Okay. Last call, Meg, if you're able to unmute yourself. All right, if since we're not hearing from you, we will move on. It doesn't look like there's anyone else who's raised their hand to speak, to make a comment at this time. So I think we are ready to conclude our comment period. So thank you everyone for your time today in commenting on our agenda items. So next we'll move on to our consent agenda. These are routine design review items that are recommended for commission approval without discussion. If an applicant has an item passed from this consent agenda, they can coordinate separately with their landmark preservation staff to receive the certificate of appropriateness. So I'll first announce the entire agenda by project number and address, and then commissioners will have a chance to express any desire to remove an item from the consent agenda and move it to our regular design review agenda. They can also announce ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest on any of these items. Barring that, we'll then move forward with a motion and vote. And again, if your project is approved from consent, you're welcome to leave the meeting, or you can stay on and hear the rest of it. So we have 9 consent agenda items. They are application number 2025-COA-476 at 18300 West Alameda Parkway for the Red Rocks Amphitheater. 2025-COA-741 at 121 West 4th Avenue in Baker Historic District. 2025-COA-484 at 314 West 5th Avenue, also in Baker. 2025-COA-354 at 740 North Clayton Street in the East 7th Avenue Historic District. 2025-COA-443 at 2633 West 36th Avenue in Potter Highlands. 2025-TAXC-22 at 2434 North Grove Street in Whitter Cofield. 2024-TAXC-023 at 556 North Circle Drive in Country Club. 2025-TAXC-023 at 3656 North Bryant Street in Potter Highlands. And 2025-TAXC-015 at 550 North Gilpin Street in Driving Park. Commissioners, does anyone have any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest they need to make us aware of? Right. Is there any item on this consent agenda that you would like to move to design review for discussion? Red Rocks. Right. So we've heard from both Emily and Chris that they'd like to move 2025-COA-476 for the Red Rocks Amphitheater to our design review. Any others? All right. So barring that first one, we have a motion for approving the other items on our consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as read, except for item number 1.
All right, thank you, Chris. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? All right, so the consent agenda, with the exception of the Red Rocks Amphitheater project, has been approved. And again, if one of these are your project, you're welcome to hop off the meeting if you'd like to.
And Red Rocks will be the first item on the design review.
Yes. All right, so moving on, we now have our design review projects. Again, the Red Rocks project has been moved to design review and will be the first project we discuss. So I'll announce each item by their address and project number. Commissioners will have the opportunity to announce any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest. We'll then hear from staff with an introduction about the application and their recommendation, after which commissioners may question staff. Then we will hear from the applicant for a limit of 10 minutes, after which we will question the applicant if we have any questions for them. Then we'll hear from staff for any clarifications if needed before we move into deliberation and then concluding with a motion and vote. So again, our first design review item now is project 2025-COA-476 at 18300 West Alameda Parkway and Red Rocks Amphitheater. And we will hear from Brittany. Oh, first, I'm assuming no conflicts of interest or any. Okay. Brittany, please.
Okay. So our first design review project is for 2 alterations at Red Rocks Amphitheater. Red Rocks is a Denver mountain park and thus owned by the city of Denver, even though it is not in the city proper. There are 2 individual landmark properties out at Red Rocks. It includes the amphitheater, which is the larger landmark boundary that you see outlined on the screen, and the trading post, which is that smaller boundary on the right side of the screen that is really tiny. The landmark local designation boundary does not include the entirety of the park or the CCC camp that is also out at Red Rocks. So here you can see an aerial image of the park. This is a slightly older image, and I can tell that by the stage roof, which is not the new stage roof. But the proposed work will occur on this stair that is along the north and east side of the park, and then up at the visitors center. So first I will go over the work that is being called the East Terrace. So a new terrace is proposed along the northeast side of the park leading into the amphitheater. This stair is on the original plans and aerial images of the park, so it was likely designed by Burnham Hoyt. And original plans by Hoyt do show that a terrace was initially planned for this area here, as you can see in these plans here. I will note that Red Rocks is a local landmark district, which is the only type of designation that provides design review overlay of the park, but it is also a national historic landmark, and it was designated in 2015 as such. It is one of only 2 national historic landmarks in Denver. Ironically enough, both are before the commission today for review, so both Red Rocks and Civic Center Park. The National Historic Landmark designation does not actually talk about this staircase, but like I said, it was likely designed by Hoyt, as it does appear on the plans that he drew and also on early aerial images of the park. So staff are supportive of the new East Terrace. It will involve minimal demolition to this existing site feature. So this lower site wall right here will be removed, and then the East Terrace will be built in this grassy area here, roughly in the same location as the terrace designed by Hoyt that was never built. It is a different footprint. You can see that here, so that is differentiating it as new. And then it will connect into the existing staircase here. So just minimal demolition there to integrate the staircase into the East Terrace into the existing staircase. This is intended to provide entry gathering space for ticketing into the amphitheater and does have a temporary shade structure on the East Terrace. This temporary shade structure is similar to other temporary shade structures that are out during the season of Red Rocks, which the season is the concert season here, but it does keep getting longer and longer. However, temporary items are not within the commission purview. In terms of the materials of the East Terrace, it will be designed to match the material construction of the conditions you do see out at Red Rocks. So it will have a concrete foundation with a sand finish to match the existing conditions. The site walls for the East Terrace will be a sandstone veneer in a pattern to match the existing conditions. And then we will have also the steel pipe railing system that you see throughout the park. I would like to note that in my staff report, the light fixture that you can see on the screen was initially noted to be removed and replaced with a light fixture to match those at the trading posts. Upon further discussions with the applicant, they're actually going to preserve and reuse this light fixture. So during construction, it will be removed and restored and then reinstalled on the site. So that is the only difference. Staff felt that it was a minimal difference and not necessary to pull that application from the consent agenda because of that minor change. But we are in support of the work proposed at the East Terrace.
Thank you, Brittany.
Oh, I'm not finished.
Sorry. You're done with the East Terrace, but you have more.
So the next project out at Red Rocks is a new supply hub, and this will occur at the Upper Terrace. The Upper Terrace is non-historic. It was originally planned by Hoyt, but was never constructed, and this is a non-historic element of the park. The supply hub is a very simple box-like structure with a green roof. It has a footprint of 14 feet 3 inches by 14 feet 10 and a half inches by 10 feet 1 and a quarter inch. It will be clad in the sandstone veneer and then have that sandstone double row cap that you see out at Red Rocks. Staff were not troubled by the supply hub as it occurs on non-historic fabric. It's adjacent to a recent storefront alteration that was reviewed and approved by the commission that you can kind of see in the upper image there. It is on a lower portion of the terrace, so you are not able to see the historic fabric from this vantage point. It does look out onto the landscape that is to the west side of the amphitheater. So staff do not have many comments or concerns over the supply hub and did feel that it met the guidelines for additions to Red Rocks Amphitheater and space here. So we are recommending approval. I do not have the motion on the screen as we do not do that for the consent agenda items, but happy to answer any questions on this.
All right, thank you, Britt. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
For the terrace, what information was landmark provided in terms of the purpose of the terrace and its planned use?
So this staircase is used for ticketing. The current entry is ticketing, like where they start doing ticketing is somewhat adjacent to the bathroom, but this is additional gathering space to do that ticketing entrance into the park.
This is before the entrance.
Yes.
So those are all the people who are huffing and puffing up the stairs.
Yes.
Okay.
It's about roughly midway, maybe a little closer to the top of the bottom of the amphitheater. But yeah, about midway.
Okay. All right. We can hear from the applicants now. Wait for staff to get them up and going. Once you have joined us and are ready to speak, if you would begin with your name, and then you have up to 10 minutes to talk about your project.
Hi, my name is Mariana Lueck.
Hello.
I work with Studio Trope. I'm in the design team. We are proposing the East Terrace, as I heard the question a few minutes ago. That's to start, they don't have a lot of space for the ticketing going inside of the amphitheater. So we are diverting the traffic to East Terrace. So they have space to do the ticketing and metal detectors and all the things they need to do before letting people into the amphitheater. As you saw before, the project is proposed in the same placement that was the original terrace proposed. We will be demolishing pretty minimal curb wall and handrails to connect the terrace to the existing stairs. And we are planning on using all the same materials to keep the same look and incorporating the natural elements to this terrace. So giving the space, but also integrating with the rocks. So it has this natural feel. And for the storage, we are trying to create the same look and feel as the rest of the amphitheater. And as you can see it from the top of the, can you show the storage sheets, please? Okay, thank you. As you can see from the top of the stairs, we are proposing a green roof here. So you are not just looking at a TPO roof or anything like that. It would be filled with a native plants and grass, and also would create a more secluded area for the rock room. That's where you see this storefront on the first picture. That's the rock room, and they have a lot of events there that they use this outdoor area. So having the storage room here would give that area a little bit more privacy for the events, and would allow the Red Rock staff to have place to storage a lot of equipment that they don't have a place to put right now.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah, it's a small project. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm happy to answer anything.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? I did have one quick question just to confirm that for, diverting, for ticketed events, diverting the folks coming in, is that a temporary fence that you're putting up on the rest of the stairs to make sure they're going?
Yeah, it's just those metal barricades. They would just temporarily be there and diverting the traffic, and they would be taken away at non-event times.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much. Staff, Brittany, do you have any further comments or clarifications to make?
I do not have.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready to move into deliberation. Commissioners, what did you think? Kristen, Emily, especially if.
No, I was just confused on where it was located because there's a kind of a plan aerial view here, and it was just a little hard to figure out where it was. And as it a circulation thing, I kind of understand it much better now. So.
And as a national and individual monument, I wanted to make sure that it had, due consideration and opportunity for comment. I think it fulfills the mission that it has in a sensitive way.
Yeah, and I think from the letters of support and some of the other voices that we heard as well from Friends of Red Rocks and a few other letters that we received, it does seem like there is support for it and it does meet a lot of the design guidelines and requirements. It does seem like there were a few other voices that were just concerned of some of these projects, newer projects they're seeing happen at Red Rocks, but it is evident that, a lot of these projects are in response to the increased attendance at Red Rocks and the popularity of Red Rocks. And so I think that while a lot of the voices we heard, some of them were concerned about future projects happening on the site. I think if we focus on this one, this terrace seems to meet all of the requirements and that due diligence has been done to really ensure that this is a seamless addition to the site.
I agree, and I did take note of the concerns about the accumulation of changes and think that we need to be, additionally sensitive in future projects.
All right, thank you. Would someone like to make a motion? And if you would want to use the staff motion, that is at the end of the report from them.
I move to approve application 2025 COA 476 for the East Terrace and Supply Hub at 18,300 West Alameda Parkway as per intent statement 2S, 5A, 5B, Design Guidelines 4.9, 4.20, 4.19, 4.20, 5.2, 5.17, Character Defining Features for the Red Rocks Amphitheater, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Emily. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, the motion passes and the project has been approved. Thank you. All right, well, now we are ready to move on to the next design review agenda item, which is 1330 North Humboldt Street in the Wyman Historic District, project number 2025-COA-463. And Brittany is also the staff manager.
So our next project is for a new accessory dwelling unit in the Wyman Historic District, which has one of our largest periods of significance, which is prior to and including 1955. As you may be aware, the city recently rezoned to allow for citywide ADUs, and this is one of the first ones we're looking at as a result of that citywide rezoning. So the existing home is a bungalow. It's constructed in 1924 and is a contributing structure to the district. So the proposed ADU will be located in the rear yard to accommodate the ADU. An existing garage will need to be demolished. Garages are not considered contributing structures in the Wyman Historic District. So while this garage is original, it is allowable to be demolished as the ordinance and designating ordinance do not call out garage structures to be preserved. And it will be replaced with a new new ADU that has a footprint of 23 feet 3 inches by 28 feet 3 inches. The proposed ADU will have a garage on the first floor that is a 2-car garage, and it will front onto the alley. The second floor of the ADU is a studio space, and then the proposed ADU does have a gable roof with in-wall dormers proposed on the side elevations. So here you can see the north elevation and the east elevation, which fronts onto the alley. This overall is a very simple ADU. It will be clad in V-groove siding, and that is to match the cladding materials that you see on the dormers of the existing structure. While the dormers are non-historic, there is an existing cladding that you do see on site. So it is a simple use of materials that is compatible with existing materials on site. It will have an asphalt shingle roof and then a steel garage roll-up door, and then does have detailing similar to the existing bungalow structure, as you can just see in this rendering here of how the siding and the eave details will be finished. All windows are inset into the wall plane. Staff would like to note that we did put this item on the regular design review agenda just because it does have divided light windows. We are not concerned about the divided light windows, but we would like them to be divided lights with a simulated divided light with a spacer bar to create those traditional shadow lines, or a true divided light that creates those shadow lines that you see on historic structures. And those divided light windows are principally on the east elevation and this north elevation that you see on the screen. The interior lot west elevation is very simple. It does have a piece of trim board that will potentially be used later for a shade structure. However, this has very visual minimal impact on this surrounding historic context. And then on the south elevation, we will have a Juliet balcony proposed here, as you can see. I did talk to the applicant that you are allowed to have a 100-square-foot balcony along the alley per the new updates to the zoning code. However, the applicant did not want to pursue this as the alley is really unappealing in this location, as I've been told. I'm not familiar with this area, so cannot verify that to extent, but that is the reasoning for the location of the balcony on this elevation. There will also be a small square window towards the interior facade, and the homeowner is going to put a stained glass window on the interior, but our purview is just limited to that exterior square window. All the windows on this structure will be Fibrex composite, which are compatible with our guidelines for new construction. The proposed ADU is just a skosh taller than the existing historic structure, as you can really see here in this elevation. But ADUs are allowed to be built up to 24 feet in height, and this proposed ADU is 23 feet 5.5 inches in height. So to provide greater context of how the height relates to the existing structure, the applicant has provided renderings from both the front and the rear, and you can see that although the ADU is taller, it really does have very minimal visual impact on the streetscape from the front of the home, which we consider the primary frontage. We don't look at alleys in terms of visibility. So staff are recommending approval of this proposed ADU with a very small condition that all windows be true divided lights or a simulated divided light with a spacer bar, and noted as such in plan.
Thank you, Brittany. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Right. We're ready to hear from the applicant. When you do join us, you have up to 10 minutes. And if you would begin with your name, please.
Hi, my name is Ellen Lind. I'm the architect for the project. And we are designing this project for the homeowner with the goal of really being able to improve the usage of the space for her and her family, and just have a space that she can use either as an office space or for a niece to live in, and just make this really more usable for her, especially as the garage was just not usable and was actually condemned, unfortunately, just due to the situation. So we really were trying to work within it, but also make something that it was usable on the upper level, which is why it is a smidgen taller, just because of trying to make sure we have adequate head clearances on the interior with all the insulation requirements and such. So we're really just trying to honor the existing structure and do it in a way that is feasible for the client. We did choose to put the Juliet balcony on the south side because the client really likes the south light and wanted to maximize the south light and the south airflow coming in. And though we did look at a balcony on the alley side, it really wasn't feasible and not something the client was interested in pursuing. So that's why we went with this. Is there any questions?
All right, no, if you are done, we'll ask the commissioners if they have any questions for you. Doesn't look like it. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brittany, any further comments? Okay. Commissioners, what did you think? Sorry, Emily.
It just seems to clearly meet the guidelines as stated.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Would someone like to make a motion then?
I can do it.
Okay.
Let's see here. Scroll down. All right. I move to approve with conditions application 2025-COA-463 for the existing garage and deck demolition and the construction of a new accessory dwelling unit at 1330 North Humboldt Street as per design guidelines 4.8, 4.18 to 4.20, 5.6, character defining features for the Wyman Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following condition: that all windows be a true divided light or a simulated divided light with space or bar and noted as such in plan.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bree. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, the motion passes and your project has been approved with that condition about the windows. Thank you. All right, we are ready to move on to our last design review item. This is project number 2025-COA-482 at 101 West 14th Avenue Parkway in the Civic Center Historic District.
So our last project of the day is for the Phase 2 design detail review for alterations into the Greek Theater, which you see in the image on your screen, as well as some minor site alterations to the entirety of the park as a whole. As you heard during public comment, this project is part of the Civic Center Next 100 that was introduced in 2022. And it is the first project as part of that Next 100. So within that plan, really 4 key spaces were identified to be improved in the park. And those spaces include Bannock Street, the Greek Theater, the Central Promenade, and the Central Gathering Space. So this is the very first phase within that implementation of the Civic Center Next 100. The commission did previously review and approve the Phase 1 mass form and context in January of 2025. I know we do have some newer commissioners, so we won't be revisiting that Phase 1 approval. And today we'll just be looking at that Phase 2 design details and how those elements support the Phase 1. During the commission discussion, it was noted that the overall site plan detailing would be a critical element of the Phase 2 review. And the proposed project did create a stronger connection between the park and the cultural complex to the south, as it opens up a north-south access through the park that is ADA accessible. And then that traffic circulation around the park along 14th and Colfax has always created some issues for the park. But Civic Center Park, as I have already mentioned, is a National Historic Landmark. It is one of 2 in Denver, and it is a Denver landmark structure as well. So that is the only layer of designation that implements design review over this project. So I am going to go through the elements of this submittal kind of one by one. Hopefully this makes it more clear as to the proposed changes. But the first kind of elements that we're looking at is the materials for the new pathway paving that is proposed for the site work. So as part of the Phase 1 review and approval, the commission did allow for this new elliptical pathway along the promenade. And this new elliptical pathway is based on original design concepts for the parkway, where the promenade was flanked by straighter pathways. So the applicant will be reestablishing the historic traffic patterns within the park, but doing it in a new shape and with new materials. So the darker blue pathways that you see on the screen are the newly proposed pathways, and they will be done in this sandstorm concrete that you see on the screen, the third material down from the top. It is a little bit darker than the this new pathway will be in the Capitol Hill concrete. The existing concrete is sandstorm. So the Capitol Hill concrete is just a little bit darker than the existing sandstorm concrete. However, as you can see on the photographs on the left side of your screen, it does not contrast greatly and will help distinguish the original pathways from the original historic remaining pathways. This again is an ADA pathway that will connect from the South Plaza all the way up to the seal pond that will be altered as part of this project. Additionally, work will occur in the North Gardens. The work in the North Gardens are with crusher fines, which are the two materials on the top of the screen and indicated there. And then not as defined in the original phase 1 submittal, but work will also be occurring in the South Garden. The applicant is still working on pricing this project and getting funding for this project, but it was important to the mayor's office that the entirety of this project come before the commission for review. So they're also asking for approval for work in the South Gardens, which is on the south side of the park, obviously, but this will also be a crusher fine pathway. And the guidelines do talk about keeping these spaces as garden spaces and re-implementing pathways into these spaces as well. Staff do feel that the materials proposed for the new walkways and site pavings are compatible with the neoclassical character of the park and the original landscaping intent of the park. So next, I do want to talk about the proposed lighting. So on the left side of the screen, you can see the historic light fixtures and some of the light illumination levels that are currently existing in the park. As part of this project, there will be some existing light fixtures that are relocated. So the design guidelines do talk about reusing and keeping the existing light fixtures that are in the park. And those relocation of light fixtures will occur around the elliptical pathway and the South Gardens. Otherwise, all existing fixtures will remain in the park, included the lighted columns, the 1-column globe fixture, the 2-column globe fixture, and the 5-column globe fixtures. A part of this project to provide additional illumination to the new pathways that were reviewed and approved by the commission, there will be illuminated bollards along those pathways. Those are indicated in the turquoise color that you see on the screen. And again, those are located just around the new pathways. Staff feel that this is compatible with the existing fixtures and does provide additional site lighting into the park and does not compete with the historic fixtures. So that is some of the site lighting. Moving on to the actual Greek theater itself. So as approved in the phase 1 submittal, the existing Greek theater will be covered with this new bowl that reorients the seating to the north instead of facing the south. And this new seating will be constructed with a ceramic concrete that has a brushed finish. So that third material down in the middle, again, compatible with the existing concrete colors that are on site, but a slightly different color to provide contrast in this area as well. You see the Capitol Hill concrete. That is, again, a new pathway that will connect the South Plaza into the new elliptical walkways, creating that ADA pathway. That will come down through the existing stairs and the balustrade wall on the north side of the site. And again, covering that non-historic stage that is located at the Greek Theater and creating that connection. There will be ramping down into the bowl, and then the side courts are that existing sandstorm concrete that you see. So you can see those colors there and how those materials will help define these spaces and the pathways, the bowl, and the side courts. In terms of the proposed seating is a Kebony wood, and it will be resting on that ceramic concrete. Here you can just see an image of that proposed seating. And the site walls will be constructed around this, and I do have an image that talks about the site walls in a second, so I'll come back to those. But the railings that are proposed in this space are going to be steel, and right now they're noted to have a Kebony wood top, but if there is appropriate funding, they will just be a stainless steel railing. So the railings could have a Kebony top or be stainless steel. Staff feels that this is compatible, either option with the historic context, and are not concerned with those two options being proposed. But we did want to note that for the commission's review. And here you can just see how that bowl seating will cover the existing space. Here is the concrete site walls that are proposed around the bowl and that sandstorm concrete, which matches the existing conditions. This is a fluted concrete wall, and it is just around the perimeters of the bowl, as you can see indicated in a very light beige on this image. Again, a wood handrail detail is proposed currently for this to define that space and help with accessibility. And then finally, further defining the bowl again is the seating. Again, that Kebony slats. Here you can see how it is laid out. This is the kind of middle seating, and then the end seating where the seating becomes more curved. It will have integrated lighting in this seating, and then depending on where the seating is specifically, the back detail is slightly different. So you do have one back detail that goes up into a handrail, a back detail against the concrete wall, etc. So this is a slight difference from the current seating configuration that is somewhat backless. However, staff did not feel it was a significant alteration to the seating concept, and it is required for ADA accessible reasons. And on the screen, you can see that Kebony wood that is proposed, and then the stainless steel that will be the handrails. Just some additional details of some of the railings that are within the space. So there will be a larger fencing detail towards the top of the bowl around the ADA accessible ramps that allow you to access the bowl itself. That is the rendering on top of the screen. It is this black steel detail, and it will have a Kebony wood handrail, which is what you see in the middle. And then down below, you can see the handrails that are proposed, a better detail there. Again, they are shown with the Kebony wood right now, but if possible, and there is funding available, they will be all stainless steel. Again, staff were not concerned about that change, as these are compatible materials with the neoclassical character of Civic Center Park. In terms of lighting inside the bowl, the handrails will have all integrated lighting. And depending on the top that they have, either the Kebony wood or the stainless steel, they'll have slightly different fixture options, but they are providing just down lighting into the stairs, illuminating the stair step space. As I mentioned, there will be integrated lighting in the bench seating, and that will be located just under the seat of the bench on the riser, and that is just LED strip lighting providing illumination to the seating. And then there is illumination at the perimeter of the bowl that lights up the columns along the historic Greek Theater, illuminating architectural details of this space as recommended by Civic Center design guidelines when adding new lighting into the space, and really taking an opportunity to highlight architectural features. So now moving on to the actual canopy itself. So again, the stage will be oriented towards the north side and will be constructed of that sandstorm concrete, and then covered with this new canopy structure that you see in this rendering on the screen. So that new canopy structure does align with datum line F as it reviewed and approved by the commission in the phase 1 approval. However, we did not look specifically at all the individual components of how the canopy will be made up. So the applicant has provided additional measurements of all of the canopy components, and they range from 18 inches to 14 inches in diameter. And you can see how those components relate to other elements that you see within the park, and how much lighter the canopy components are than the existing columns that you see on the Greek Theater, which are about 34 inches in diameter, or even the lighted columns that range from 40 to 34 inches in diameter. So it is a much lighter element than any of the existing neoclassical elements within the park. In terms of the canopy structure, it is a steel canopy with a champagne bronze finish. The applicant did look at a number of colors in terms of what would be most compatible, and the champagne color does allow the canopy to somewhat blend into the surrounding context. It will have an anti-climb material on it that I will let the applicant speak more about, but it is a slightly fluted shape to it that you will see that comes all the way to the ground. And then the canopy itself will be covered in this mesh tensile fabric that I do have additional images of as well. But here you can just see how the canopy connects to the ground and that integrated drain that it does have there to shed water and snow. So here is the proposed tensile fabric. The closer you are to the fabric, the more apparent it is. Generally speaking, you as a person experiencing the park and walking through the park will be more than 15 feet or 15 feet away from this canopy structure, which will just kind of disappear and allow you to experience it as an open space. It is, I guess my best kind of way to describe it is similar to the roofing system at DIA, where it comes up in peaks. And again, this is to help shed the snow and rain that will collect in this area. So you can see that structural system here and that tensile system here. It is finished in black because the black does help it disappear into view when you're significantly far away from it. And then finally, in terms of lighting, this is a theatrical space, so it will have integrated lighting. And most of these fixtures will be up year-round. There are some fixtures that will be installed as part of performances, but these fixtures are also meant to be able to be removed and changed as technology evolves. So here are some of the proposed fixtures. Most of the lighting that is proposed to be used in this space is a soft white lighting, but the theatrical light will have a full RGB spectrum, and again will be used when performances are occurring in the park. There is also a light fixture that will be installed on the roof of the existing Greek Theater, and you can see the detail for that fixture here and this element. It will be attached to a handrail that will be attached to the backside of the existing building parapet. Staff feels that this has minimal visual impact on the Greek Theater and is not an alteration that will be noticed by the public on a daily basis. And then finally, in terms of this canopy structure and new bowl structure, just wanted to highlight some of the elements that are historic and original to the Greek Theater and how they will be modified as part of this project. So here we do have the current entrance into the Greek Theater from the south. It does involve a significant set of granite stairs to get down to the stage level. Again, this project will bring all of this up to the same grade and make it ADA accessible. So with that, the granite stairs will be removed from the south side. This was part of the phase 1 approval, and those granite stairs will be relayed as part of this project in the same location as discussed in the phase 1 approval. And this packet does have additional information on how those granite stairs will be reused. But the existing stage that you see on the right side of your screen is non-historic, and that will just be covered, as well as the non-historic paving and non-historic seating that were heavily modified when improvements were made to the space in the early 2000s. So there will be a new Kebney wood platform installed as part of this project near the Allen True Memorials. And again, that is associated with that work to bring this up to 1 level. So it is just an insert that will be installed into this space. It will not negatively impact historic fabric, but it will alter that stair set that you see there. But all of that historic fabric will remain intact and not removed as part of installing this new Kebney wood platform by the Allen True Memorials. And here you can see the granite stairs that are Texas Rose. These will be reused as part of this project, as you can see indicated in the image below, and they'll be patched as necessary with a new sunset beige granite, as the Texas Rose is no longer available, but it is a very close match. Some other alterations to the Greek Theater. Again, the commission did approve alterations to the stairs that are on either side of the Greek Theater. So on the south side, it will remain a stair, but it will have a new railing around that. That is just a simple stainless steel railing in that black finish that will allow access down to the spaces below. And then on the north side of the Greek Theater, that is where the elevator house will integrate into the Greek Theater and allow for the concert equipment and associated elements to be brought into that space. So that stair on the north side will be demolished as approved by the commission. And then here you can see the footprint that was approved by the commission for the elevator house. That just is on the other side of the benefactor's wall, as mentioned in public comment earlier. In terms of lighting alterations to the Greek Theater itself, integrated lighting will be added around the cornice, and new illumination will be added to illuminate the Allen True Memorials. The lighting is pretty minimal in nature, and again is used to highlight architectural features, and is a soft white lighting as recommended by the design guidelines for Civic Center Park. And then finally, here we do have the elevations for the elevator house. So this is a concrete structure that has a metal screen on it, and that metal screen is a 2-layer system where the first kind of layer is a perforated panel, and you can see those perforated panels in the middle of the screen. That is that pattern that is proposed. And then it will have this structural arch support as well. It will be clad on all elevations with this material. And between the concrete panel and the metal screen will be integrated lighting. I do have an image to show that to the commission. But the elevator house is proposed to be a similar color to the light fixtures within the park. The intent of this is for this elevator house and space to disappear and not be as visible. Although this is not a kiosk structure, there wasn't like great guidelines to review something of this nature as, but staff are supportive of this because we do feel that it is a high quality material it is designed in a way to blend in with the surrounding environment and will not take away from the natural landscape. And here is an image of that integrated lighting. It is just simple down lighting, again, between the metal panel and the concrete structure that actually forms the elevator house. And that is going to be a soft yellow to soft white lighting. And then finally, talking about alterations that weren't as extensively presented to the commission in the initial phase 1, it is this alteration to the South Plaza. So here in the South Plaza is proposed to be a Gang of 19 educational garden. And this is to honor the events of July 5th, in which disability rights activists laid in the streets and protested for their ability to ride on the Denver public buses and chanted, "We will ride." So in the middle of the South Plaza is an asphalt centerpiece with reflective painting that states "We will ride." And again, this is to connect back to the laying into the streets. And this is intended to be an educational piece and provide a connection to that event that occurred here close to Colfax and 14th intersection. So we are very close to where this event actually occurred, where we're placing this educational garden. Around the asphalt centerpiece will be a bronze commemoration in granite with all the names of the Gang of 19. And then around the centerpiece will be seating. Again, it will be a Kebony wood seating with the integrated lighting below the seat, allowing you to experience that space. And then there will be additional plantings and trees and other materials that allow you to experience the space. And then we do have a granite Gang of 19 with the date of the event that occurred in the 70s to allow you to kind of frame that space. It is intended to be a very tactile space with materials rippled, plantings, etc., and provide education on this event that occurred. And there is no other commemoration within the park or in Denver of this event. The guidelines do talk about commemoration only occurring on the colonnade of benefactors. However, there are other public art pieces within the park. Staff are supportive of this alteration to the South Plaza, as we feel it is important to honor this history that occurred in Denver, which was really groundbreaking, and really make the South Plaza a gathering space that people do want to be in and be a part of. So staff are supportive of this educational garden as well. Just some additional images of this space, as the commission did not look at this too extensively in the initial phase 1's middle. So just from eye level. And again, lighting is very minimal in this space with the integrated lighting from the benches. And that is my presentation. I just have some additional renderings to show the commission, but staff do feel that it is compliant with the design guidelines for Civic Center Park, which require high quality materials. We do feel that the steel canopy relates to the materials of neoclassical architecture in terms of its color and selection. It does not negatively impact the surrounding context. The site materials were chosen very carefully to match but also differentiate with the surrounding historic context. And we do feel that the Gang of 19 educational garden is an important civic component to this project that really honors the history of the July 5th events of the Gang of 19 and are supportive of this project. So here is that same view of the park and the aerial image that I showed before, and you can really see that South Plaza, the new bowl seating, and the canopy, as well as the new pathways through the park. This is the canopy structure looking south into the cultural complex, so where the Denver Art Museum is and the Denver Public Library Central Branch. from the Seal Pond. And you can see along the central promenade, there will be additional benches, again, in that ebony wood where there was historically the planting beds. They will also have integrated planting beds as well, and again, integrated lighting in the seat at the bottom. And then here is a view as you are in the theater space, looking north into downtown of the proposed project, so kind of sitting within the bowl itself. And here is my recommended motion where we are recommending approval as we feel that it is in compliance with the design guidelines.
Okay, thank you, Brittany. Commissioners, before we hear from the applicant, do you have any questions for staff? Okay. All right. So the applicant has requested an additional 5 minutes for their presentation time, which has been granted given the amount of scope that we want to hear about with these design details and the amount of details to hear from them. So they will have 15 minutes rather than the usual 10 minutes. And we'll invite those of you in person. I think we have some folks online as well, or all in person. Great, okay. So please feel free to join us at the table. Maybe you need to bring some additional chairs up. And yes, you can just begin with your names.
May we ask permission to set out our
Yes.
samples before we start talking?
Sure.
Would that be fair?
Yep.
We'll put them in front of where we are, and I'll ask this again, but we hope that you will, during discussion, come up and look at material samples and chat with us.
And just let me know when you want me to change your slides also.
Can I ask you a quick question? Is it allowable to get up and point during the presentation? I don't know, with audio. I don't know.
Are we ready? Okay. My name is Jenna Harris. I'm the Downtown Parks Program Manager for Denver Parks and Recreation. We have a lot to cover, so I'm really here to just say thank you to the commission and especially Landmark staff for all of the time to review the submission, as well as our stakeholders and amazing design team. Thank you all for being with us today.
Right. My name is Juliana Wolf from Studio Gang. I will cover the bulk of the presentation. If you go to the next slide, this is giving you an, actually one more slide, is giving you an overview of what we want to talk about. Hopefully not too much repetition of what you just heard, but it is an overview of the materials and details as they relate to the overall site, the theater wall, the theater canopy, the lighting, South Plaza, and elevator house. Next. Tina Bishop with Mundus Bishop, 1525 Raleigh Street. I'm the Associate Landscape Architect on the project. And Brittany did a stellar job of going through the site materials and details. I just want to note that when you're looking at the park and the materials that we've selected, that we're really using the building blocks of what's already in the park. You guys that know the park well know those are the granite, the Turkey Creek sandstone. Concrete has been a large part of Civic Center, everywhere from building the structure to a lot of those site materials and paving that you see. Next. Brittany went through this quite well. I just want to point out that many of the materials some of the materials were introduced in the 2010 construction, which included the sandstorm concrete. So if you're wondering where that word and name came from, that's a special mix that's just for Civic Center, as is that Civic Center concrete. So there's two. They're similar finish. Sandstorm has a bit of color in it to distinguish it from the Civic Center concrete. We're using both of those, and Brittany went through how we're using those. In the bowl, Juliana will go over the materials that we're using, but also, again, a similar mix of concrete with a different set of finishes that really create a nice palette of materials that create that nice warm color, but also are matching with the historic character. This is a photo taken at the base of the Greek Theater, so you can see how we laid everything out and been really thoughtful about material selection. Next. And so there's a slide I was supposed to talk to. And so these are the two materials, or the three materials we're using on site, but we are just using the ceramic within the bowl, and the Sandstorm and the Capitol Hill are used throughout the site. Next. Sorry, it's really slow. There it goes. A couple of the other materials, and you'll see this when you come up, within the site that Brittany had spoken about are crusher fines materials, which are local fines that will be used on site. We have some proprietary materials that we're using as well, and we have those up here as well. They are a little bit more durable, some of those areas that will be used a lot and will need to be cleaned frequently, and we're happy to talk about that. We do have the material in the South Plaza that's really important to the commemorative feature, and that is a simple asphalt. Happy to discuss that further too. Next.
Okay, I am going to talk about the bowl material in detail next. Next slide, please. And I will point a little bit as there's a lot to look at. So the bulk of the bowl and side courts right here is that Sandstorm material, which is the concrete that is used elsewhere in the park as well. Then there are these loop paths, which are the accessible paths. They are distinguished in color with a Capitol Hill concrete. We have the samples here. And then the bowl itself is a little bit lighter, the ceramic concrete, to distinguish the bowl from the rest. And we also think that's advantageous for it to be lighter in terms of thermal comfort. The granite in the portal itself, we are reusing, and I'll talk about that in more detail, as well as the cavity wood features. Next. The seats themselves, which are radiating out from the stage, are again in this cabiny color or cabiny material, which changes finish and color throughout its lifespan. So it starts as a more brownish wood, but then as it weathers, it becomes it receives a gray tone. And then back here, these rails, those are stainless steel, and I just wanted to point out that they are 2 feet high, so they are knee height approximately. So it's not a tall guardrail. Next. Then these walls that are around the perimeter of the bowl, they help. We have them because they have multiple purposes, actually. They help acoustically, they help to reflect the sound, which is also why, this is a plan detail, why they have this kind of shaped profile. We also really like that the fluted shape creates a relationship to the fluted columns of the Greek theater itself. And they also help to frame the sloped accessible ramps that go down to the bowl and to the seating. And then the handrails are again the cabiny. Next. There is the very outer kind of radial walls. At the base, they have that same concrete, which is again the Sandstorm that matches everything else. And then there are steel pickets, small I know, but which then extend and create the guardrail of the side courts themselves. So these extend to guardrail height beyond the level of the side courts to create fall protection. And on the top, again, there is a cabiny kind of rail covering it, and those are painted metal pickets, and we have a color sample here as well. Next. Looking a little bit in more detail at what is happening at the Greek theater. So there are 2 sets of stairs. The southernmost one are the granite stairs that we are reusing in place. I have the next slide shows exactly how, but we are leveling those to create that accessible pathway, while the southern stairs that are currently creating the level difference to the bowl itself, those will remain in place but will be covered. Next. So this is, it is quite zoomed in, but this is the detail right at that southern portal of the Greek theater, where these are the existing granite steps. And again, we are using the existing granite, but we are leveling it to make it accessible. And all of that will have one alignment with the threshold of that door right there. The
sandstone concrete will come right next to it. So that there's no step anymore, but the material will remain in place. And any granite that needs to be patched will be that sunset beige granite, which matches very, very closely the Texas rose granite. Next. In terms of the planter walls, these are historic and will remain in place, but will be covered. There are a few steps up here that will be carefully removed, while the non-historic elements, these elements of the wall right here, will be demolished. Next. Then looking at a few more elements in more detail that are historic. So these are the steps that connect the side courts to the park. The area below the balustrade will remain in place, but will be covered, so the landscape will come up to that. Stairs, non-historic, will be demolished, and these are the stairs up to the side courts from the center axis. They will remain in place and will be covered as well. Next. Now we'll talk about the canopy in a little bit more detail. Next, please. So you had already seen how slim and slender this canopy is. I'll just mention a fun fact right here, but the slenderness ratio, so the overall span of the canopy compared to the depth, is equivalent to the shell, an egg shell. So when you compare the thickness of an egg shell to the overall width of the egg. So in other words, very, very slender, and something we have worked carefully with our engineers. Next. Then the actual textile that is covering it, it does have these little peaks that help to tension it. And what I want to point out here, what was really important to us, is that the material itself is actually translucent. So when you are underneath the canopy, you can see through it and you can see the sky. So it's a little bit different than a lot of the textile kind of fabric you see around in town as well. Next. And then this was maybe a little bit more illustrative image than what you had seen before of how the canopy comes to the ground. So it is the two pipes that come straight down to the ground. All the heavy foundational infrastructure is below ground so that you don't see it. So it is very slim and elegant. And then there is on the surface are small fins attached to the pipes, and that helps with anti-climbing. So it's much harder to hold on to those pipes. Next. Lighting. Next, please. You had seen a few images of that already. I think it's already probably clear to you that the black dots are the existing fixtures that remain in place. The ones that Brittany mentioned that are relocated are the single globe fixtures, that 4 of them that go from these locations into this new south garden right here, while the 2 globe poles are being 4 of them also relocated from that location to here. And then maybe it's hard to see from where you're sitting, but these turquoise dots, these are the bollards that give the pathway illumination, not general illumination. And then the benches themselves also have integrated lighting. Next. We'll zoom into the bowl in a little bit more detail. So there are lights integrated at the seating, so it's kind of tucked under the cabinet, so it's a very, very subtle. And then the handrails themselves have integrated lighting also. So at the steps and also at these ramps that we were talking about earlier that have these cabinet guardrails, and the lights are kind of tucked into the guardrails themselves. Next. Then again, the more theatrical lighting that's part of the canopy. There are different kind of fixtures, some that can create a general illumination of the stage, but also the theatrical fixtures, which can also have a broad color spectrum, while the other ones are bright or warm light. Next. Here, the light that is incorporated into the historic structure is very much kind of in a subtle way tucked into the existing profiles right here. So this right here is that
fixture, which is barely visible, but it's just giving a very subtle glow. The ceiling lights will be replaced right there, and then there's a track light that kind of gets tucked in also behind this stone element to make it as hidden as possible. Next. The South Plaza, next. I know you're a little bit less familiar with. I just wanted to mention, in addition to everything you've heard already, that we spent a lot of time with the Disability Advisory Committee as we were working through what this plaza should be like and how to really commemorate the Gang of 19 event in 1978. So this is one of many meetings we had at Atlantis, which are one of the groups that were involved together with Colorado Cross Disability Commission and many others. And what was really important to the community is that the solution here is a tactile and visceral one, so that it can be experienced with different senses and kind of different ways of portraying the information that we want to portray in terms of really the commemoration. Next. So the elements are that central circle, and I think it was said already that the fact that that is out of asphalt and kind of reflective paint is to really remind people of the that momentous occasion that happened on the street on the asphalt. So it's a very kind of, again, visceral and tactile way of creating this commemoration. The other materials then are the ones that we are using elsewhere in the park. So the Capitol Hill concrete, sandstorm, this should say concrete, sandstorm, concrete, as well as the granite and again, ebony. Next. The surrounding walls are out of granite as well, the one that is going to match the historic granite. Next. And I already spoke about the asphalt and white. I think I'm good time-wise. I think next slide, just a few words about the elevator house, which is small building, but it's very important for the to support all the activity that is happening within the park, which is certainly part of the historic reasoning for the park to be there, is to have a place for people to gather. So thank you. That is it. And I think if you go, there's another rendering if you want to have that up during discussion. Yeah.
Commissioners, I guess I'll open it up for questions that you have for the applicants, but also remind you that we have these materials here that we can either go up, or if you want to pass them around, we can do that as well. So yeah, any questions? Nick?
Yeah, the South Plaza, it is newer to us, and I appreciate you noting that. But I do think it warrants a little more discussion from you regarding the design impetus. I'd like to hear more about the precedent and the purpose for the typeface, and the materials, and why the materials are appropriate given the context of the permanence of the rest of the site.
And maybe I could just quickly, I just want to make sure the story piece is also clear, since we haven't had a lot of time to delve into that with this group. So the event that happened in 1978 is, well, arguably the most important historic event that's happened in the Civic Center district, and it is little known today. That event caused Denver's RTD to be the first accessible mass transit system in the country, and was the spark for the entire disability movement in this country, and is what led to the Americans with Disability Act of 1990. So the reason for the location is really because of the physical improvements and making the Greek theater fully accessible for the first time in its 100-year history. And I just wanted to also note that our team received a Mellon grant from the Mellon Foundation in New York City to support the Gang of 19 commemoration in Civic Center because of the uniqueness of this story and the commemoration not really having a place in the district. And so we've been working with the Mellon Foundation over the last 3 years. We received $2.3 million to support this initiative specifically, but I'll let Juliana talk more about the materials.
Yeah, so my concern wasn't relative to program and appropriateness, more to design.
Yeah, yes, this is a great slide. Actually, the plan overview to talk about the questions you're asking, why is it the design it is. So it all starts with this "We Will Ride" moment in the center, which is certainly the most important slogan that came out of that. And that, again, the materiality to really remind everyone of this momentous occasion of people laying in the street on the asphalt, which was the starting point to the Americans with Disabilities Act today. The design is symbolic in that sense. It all started with this moment, but then there's a ripple effect that happened that started all with this moment in the middle. And this is actually why there are these concentric circles that are creating the overall plaza. This "We Will Ride" in the middle. The next kind of ring or ripple is seating, so that people can actually also enjoy the space and occupy that space and be reflective in that space. It's benches that have integrated also companion seating and wheelchair seating. So it's a series of bench segments with companion seating and wheelchair kind of rhythm that create that ripple. And then the next one is the more kind of granite element, which is reminding us that at this point now it is a monument that's here to stay, and so it has the durability and it finds its place in the context of Civic Center as being something that's very, very durable and precious as well. And then the next kind of layer around that is the actual planting, which is the sensory garden, which also will evoke or speak to other senses other than sight. So there's the granite, I should mention, that has a kind of rippled surface at the top. So it is the stone wall modulation. So it is also a surface that can be touched and is creates a kind of level of communication through that. And then the plants that have the smell and so on. So it is meant to be enjoyed by many different people with many different abilities. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah,
I don't want to go on too long, so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, the only piece of my question I think that you didn't touch on was the typeface.
Oh, sorry.
And
Yes.
the
typeface.
and the materiality, and because abstractly the way I look at it in relation to the guidelines and the overall plaza is we're bringing some of the road from the road to the plaza. So if we could talk about that for a minute.
Yes, I'll start with the typeface. So the inspiration of that was certainly the 70s and the kind of buttons that people were wearing to protest. So it goes back to that protest movement from the 70s, and that was the inspiration for the kind of the button and the typeface itself. And the materiality, you're absolutely right. That was the point, right? It is almost like bringing a piece of street to the plaza, which is where people were laying down for 24 hours on the street. And so that is indeed the point, is to remember that and to also evoke it with senses beyond the intellectual one of knowing it, but really feeling it and sensing it.
Yeah, I think the only other piece, when we looked at a lot of the typefaces at different orientations, we really wanted to evoke like the feeling of like a crosswalk or like a threshold that you're entering into. And so this orientation ended up being the one that kind of brought that in a way that was still legible to the message of the Gang of 19.
Thank you.
The buttons are on page 14 of application 3. Show the
inspiration. Any other questions?
Could you speak to the elevator house similarly, just kind of describe the design you landed on in more detail?
Certainly.
And maybe the process that led you there?
Certainly. So here, the elevator house, again, we wanted to make sure that it doesn't compete with any of the other elements, the Greek theater itself, or any of the bowl or canopy space around it. So it is I guess you could say, a supporting cast member in that. And that was our intent, is that it really reads to be part of the park, more so than part of the Greek theater itself. And for that reason, we did choose the color that is the same color as other elements in the park. The light poles were mentioned, but also any other infrastructural elements in the park have that same green, so it disappears more. And then finally, we wanted, it's successful in the image, let's just say. It is that element right here. And the pattern itself, so it is steel also, painted steel, but we wanted to create the structure out of an organic shape as well, so that, again, it does blend more with the overall language of the park itself. So we didn't want just some kind of strict, rigid box in that, but something that's a little bit more playful and organic.
Any other questions?
I have some on materials themselves, mainly the wood that you guys are proposing. As you guys can imagine, the UV here is quite intense, as well as the snow and just overall atmospheric conditions. And if you have any experience or project history with other projects in the area or in the Rocky Mountain region that would use that wood and has kind of held up over time and long-term performance?
Do you mind either one of you answering that? I can start. Because you did a So- lot of research on that. Yeah, so it's not just a wood, Kevany, so Kevany is a structured wood, do I get the terminology right? It is being used in Colorado, it's being used, and we're using it pretty much extensively just on seating and benching, and it's becoming a real popular product for that because it doesn't have the wear, and even with our UV, what you're seeing is not a disintegration in the wood itself, but you're only seeing the color differentiating as it weathers. This one is the color with the raw material. If you oil it, it gets a little bit darker. So it's a really nice material. It's locally sourced. So we have a contractor in town that we've been talking with to locally source it. It's been around on furniture for quite some time. And, you know, in the olden days, we used to use redwood, heartwood, right? Those were the original Red Rocks benches. Those have been changed. And then we moved to Ipe, and then we moved to some other woods. This is much more structurally sound because it's not just a wood product like those are. And so it will hold up much better. So in Colorado, it's been around for several years.
And I think one other piece, just in terms of the detailing of the benches, is we've worked extensively with the team to come up with a bench design that's easily replaceable by single slats by our maintenance team. We had a different configuration where the bench was going and the slats were horizontal, but instead these are all equal spaced pieces that are easy to replace if we have, you know, graffiti damage or all the other things that people are concerned about when we talk about wood in parks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can, like, just from the section image there or the rendering, you know, there's really no slope provided on the bench, and you know, there's probably ways for water entrapment for the attachments and things like that. And so I would just note for long-term durability of some of these things, so it's not become, you know, a major maintenance for, you know, our city, to maybe consider just long-term performance of some of these materials and elements.
Yeah, along the same lines. As someone who cares for buildings after the architects go on their merry way, what is the maintenance? And it's only been in use for a few years, you said here? So I'm curious what kind of commitments the city has to make down the line with the use of this material, what is the expected maintenance that has to happen on an annual or a 5-year basis with this wood?
I should clarify, it's been sourced in Colorado for a couple of years, but it has been used for many years.
Many
I'll
years.
let you do the care and maintenance part.
Yeah, I know that maybe you guys could talk a little bit more about the details, but my understanding is that we are choosing to not do the oiling piece, partly because of the color considerations. We've been working with Historic Denver, who prefers kind of the more muted gray tone, but also because that adds another level of maintenance for our staff to do that really isn't necessary for this piece. Currently, we're also underway with a operations and maintenance study for Civic Center specifically so that we can identify dedicated revenue sources and ways to maintain Civic Center Park to a higher level of standard than we're able to do today. So I think the question is, well, it's materials, it's design, but it's also operational as we move forward with the future of the park.
So I think if you compare, if I might jump in, compare it to.
Say who you are though.
And Fairmont Architects and Studio Trope Associates doing it. The benches out at Red Rocks and the woods and how long it has lasted out there and how much more durable, harder, and the whole process for the wood of the drying and then like kind of re-impregnating it. From a maintenance standpoint, will be much less than what we're experiencing at Red Rock, which has been replaced once in like 35 years ago, and now they're going back through. So I think from a durability standpoint and from an appropriateness standpoint, it's a very good product to use here.
May I ask, is it currently installed in some location nearby that just, we can see how
16th
it.
Street is covered in it.
16,
Yeah.
I was wondering about if it was the same
16th Street
stuff.
and that furnishing
But
company.
that's new, I wanna see it after it's.
The team did go visit a residential application where they brought like an industrial standard bench that had been in someone's backyard. I can't remember how many years.
That one, we had seen it weathered for 2 years, but there are other installations, but it started out in Colorado more residential. But because it is more the structured wood, we used to always spec marine grade hardwoods as well, and you're probably familiar with those woods too, and finding that this is to be a superior product.
But we don't have any long time use anywhere, it's only a few years.
Not in Colorado, as far
Not
as
in Colorado that
we're
we
aware.
have not found
It's a newer product. So there are examples elsewhere throughout the country. Our landscape architects, Olin, who do projects all over the country and the world, have used it extensively. But unfortunately, we weren't able to find as many examples in Colorado as we would like that have already been installed more than 2 years. Yeah. I think one other thing I just wanted to point out too is I think we talked last time about the intent of why we're using the wood. Obviously, thermal comfort in this space and for it to really be a vibrant performance space is really important. We as parks have some concerns about using wood as well in terms of maintenance and durability, but we've really limited it to the places that we find most important for the success of the space and have detailed it in a way that really allows for changing of wood type if we need to going down the line. So there is a gamble in that there are only so many examples installed here, but from the research that we've done, we believe it to be the best product to use at this time.
I had one other material question, and that was what you guys were referring to as ceramic concrete. Does that mean it's concrete that's coated in ceramic material, or does that mean, what does that mean?
So it's a gray concrete that has a white color in it, and so the ceramic is the proprietary name, and so it is like a sand. Well, there's a sand. These are all sand finished, right? So that's how they kind of get their names. It's a broom finish that gives it sort of that lighter look, but it is a regular concrete, smaller aggregate, but with a white color added to it to get that lighter intensity.
So it's a traditional cast in place
So
concrete.
they're all traditional cast in place concrete, and they're all sort of specialized mixes. They're all color hardscape specialized mixes. These two are both already in the park, and this would be the new.
So it's not the type of concrete that integrates waste product of ceramics for sustainability, because that's also a subtype.
It does not have ceramics in it. I mean, we could, but we haven't done that.
I was researching because I wasn't sure what it was.
Well, it's like a lithocrete or something, right? Yeah, it's not a lithocrete, it's a standard concrete. And it gets, the 4% is the color, the amount of color. We looked at an 8%, it was really, really lovely, and it was just way outside our price range. We looked at a white concrete, if you're familiar with that, because that also makes a really nice concrete, and that was really out of our budget, out of our price range. And so they've come back and recommended this with the white color added.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do actually. As far as the typeface, most of the renderings were aerial. There was one rendering that was street level. And have you done studies about the legibility of it from different height vantage points for people? I mean, because if you're educating children.
Yeah, I
They're
think.
lost, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, we can continue to study that. We do have a number of rendering views that weren't included in here. I think obviously we're balancing kind of an abstracted art piece with a literal like representation of the wording. And so I think we kind of liked that it maybe looks a little bit hard to decipher from different angles. And we do hope to work with the public library, who has the weight blank papers, all of the papers from one of the founders of the movement and others, to really tell the story long term about the Gang of 19. We kind of see this as the beginning place for a larger story that's not just ours to tell.
I saw, some of the integrated script into the surrounding ripple wall. So does that actually have, is there an idea of putting in, descriptive language, plaques?
So right now we've stuck only with the gang of like the date of the protest and kind of the very basic language. We've talked about potentially using our 1% art money to work with an artist to tell that story. We didn't feel comfortable to kind of engrave those words in stone, like as Denver Parks and Recreation alone, and felt like it needed additional vetting. But that's something we've talked about, either temporary or integrated signage to come in at a later phase. So what we've done is really the basic like abstraction of the key elements.
Would this be a time to ask staff for a clarification? Sorry.
I do have clarification.
If we were to approve this phase as is, would the limitation be to keep this graphic as presented for the central piece? Because they said they were doing a bit more studies.
So the commission recommends approval or conditional approval. Depending what those conditions are, we would look at those administratively, but this is what we would approve. I will say that typefaces, when we're talking about signage, is not something we're legally allowed to comment on. It is a violation of federal law. Is that correct, Crystal? So we don't look at typeface ever.
I wonder if
But
whether this
it's-
would be considered art piece
Yeah,
versus
it's a pattern.
typeface.
I'm not saying your questions aren't important
No,
and
I understand that
don't
there's limitations.
not ask them and consider them. I'm just letting you know.
Can I just add though,
Yeah, I'm
if
trying to-
something
Get
from some
arrested.
staff
For
or
sure.
leader, being in the park, it would come back to you.
Okay, just to clarify, we aren't intending to not come back with a second piece. We're just not ready to do that yet ourselves. And so we would be coming back to you all once we're ready to do that with additional detail. We just don't have that yet.
Around the.
Around
Around-
that, if any additional text or anything that's not shown today, exactly.
I'm just trying to understand the process as well. For
So the typeface, there's no allusion to people laying in the road. That's not what the basis of the typeface is. Because that was my first.
More crosswalk. Yeah, you mean the actual pattern of the?
Well, it's all just segments, like people laying
Yeah,
in the road.
yeah.
That's not it.
Well, I guess that's the thing about art. That's your interpretation.
So, well, I could understand that. That's why. But, all right.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Brittany, did you have, thank you very much. Brittany, did you have further clarifications that you'd like to make?
I do have further clarification.
Okay.
So all city-owned projects we forward to the commission for review in order to maintain transparency. However, if the commission approves or approves with conditions, that just comes to staff for review to ensure that it met this conversation. If there are significant changes and alterations, it is possible we would re-forward that back to the commission. But if you're approving today, everything in your packet that you have today would be what is approved. Does that all make sense?
We have no other phases we're looking at for this, are we?
Unless something significantly changes, no.
Any other? Okay. All right, I think we're ready to move into deliberation. Who would like to start?
Since I asked the
Yes,
first
please,
question.
Nick.
I would just like to, congratulate the team first of all, because everything that's three-dimensional became better with the materiality you presented. So I think that that's great. The hurdle I'm gonna have, and I'm gonna require my colleagues to get me over, is the South Plaza. And it's a two-dimensional piece, arguably. But the big issue for me from the guidelines perspective is I could see bridging the gap between the neoclassical Greek theater and the more modern program for the new active space. If we went from neoclassical to that. Now, with this new South Plaza, we have something that is also very much in contrast to what is there, which is a different precedent. And I would just ask my colleagues what they think of that. Because for me, I think it's, one blow too many.
Nick, can you clarify when you're talking about the South Plaza being so much more different? Is it the raised elements as well, or is it really that asphalt like medallion and the reflective paint on it?
It's the abstract nature of it in juxtaposition to the neoclassical architecture, I think. It's the doorstep. I think, for me, the harmony came when you walk through the traditional doorstep into the new active space. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, there's these like when they're talking about ripples and there's kind of these raised.
I think that's all fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's what's on the ground is in what's tactile. What the team presents as being its biggest asset to me is its biggest flaw relative to the guidelines. But I'm one person.
One vote.
What are other people's thoughts on?
I definitely share some of Nick's sentiments, and I think you phrased it really well, and those are words that I was also trying to simulate is, as you mentioned, we have these obviously historical context elements that we're working with, and I think when it comes to the amphitheater and that whole portion and the stage and the Greek theater, obviously a lot of refinements and development have been made where it feels like it's at a really good place, where again, it's meeting the criteria, it's in response to a lot of discussions you guys have had with our group and others. And so I think for the South Plaza, I am perceiving it to be kind of a new element that I just think requires further conversation. And for me, it's not just the Memorial Park space, it's also the elevator air structure as well. I know you had mentioned that you really want that to blend in. But what really strikes me is that the park is obviously a public place. Every single facet of it is seen. And so to me, it's kind of looking like something that should feel like it's a little more integrated into the Greek theater. And I think it's also a little bit of, unknown territory, because obviously these two elements fall out kind of in this gray area of our typical purview of they're not quite these historic elements, they're additive and new and more contemporary. So the best way to approach those, we're kind of in I think an interesting spot with comment. So that's just my 2 cents.
I do have further clarification. The footprint, the height, and the location of the elevator house is approved. So the only clarifications on the elevator house is the cladding materials that we can request at this time.
Right, yeah, correct.
Thanks, Brittany. I guess I'll just add, I share your concerns about the asphalt and the reflective paint. I totally understand that it is evoking that event of laying in the road, and in some ways is very powerful because of that. So I'm not, dismissing it out of hand. I think it's really interesting, but I do have concerns about kind of, well, one, there's only so much interpretation that you can get out of that, or an understanding that you could get out of that just by looking at it. And I'm a little concerned of that being lost by the casual observer, but also, yeah, I think just, clearly not being part of the guidelines of using these quality materials that are already seen within Civic Center. That said, it is also at the edge of the park, but as you said, point out, it's not just the edge, it is like a new entryway, and they're really trying to emphasize like using this as a welcoming portal into the park when it hasn't really been in the past. So I'm personally torn between those kind of two ideas.
I think if it's got to be there in that location, how it's currently designed is of the time in terms of it feels very 1978 with how it looks. So if it's going to be there, I think trying to really fit it into some of the other materials, then it would be lost because it wouldn't be of 1978 and it wouldn't feel like the event that spurred it.
I mean, with all due respect to the 1978 event, which again, I've been very interested in that event for a long time and knowing its national impact. But this being not a 1978 site and National Historic Landmark, so.
I would like to interject the local period of significance does go all the way up to 79.
True.
That is not the same for the National Historic Landmark, but.
Yep, good point.
I mean, if it's got to be there, then I guess it feels like of the time, of the date.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for the folks that are, I guess, on the fence about that. If it were, a dark granite material, that had the same concept or whatever, maybe would that alleviate some of your concerns, or is it just the overall design itself, or is it purely material?
I mean, I think for me, it is the material, but at the same time, I think using a darker granite would actually lose the whole point of it. So I understand why they're using what they're using. That's why I get torn up.
They'll need a docent to stand there.
This is finished, really.
Anyone else have any, not to jump around, I guess I just want to bring it back to the elevator house. Maybe that'll be a little clearer for folks to talk about, and then we can come back to any outstanding issues. But Bree had mentioned the elevator house and concerns with the cladding.
Yeah, I think I can see the, you know, the form of the cladding where it's relating to the cover over the Greek theater. But I think for me, what stands out is while we are trying to make it invisible, the reality is, as through this presentation, I've been thinking of how we experience the park at the ground level, and as a resident, I go through that park all the time. And so to me, it just really stands out to me that there would be a large green box sitting near the Greek theater and near the lawns and the new trees and near this park that is going to be commemorative to a big event in Denver. And so I think my, I guess I have thoughts on, you know, in doing that perforated metal material is a thought that would allow plants to grow on it. It kind of seems like it's just a box sitting on its own. I hadn't noted any vegetation or plants planned for being around it. It just feels like something that's kind of set off to the side, as you said, a supporting character. But I think that this might be a placement where it should have a little bit more architectural character to it. And I think it's not the fact that it is just the size of the box, Brittany, as you said, that it's meeting all the requirements. So it's not so much that. To me, I think it's the cladding that's really hitting me as something where is there something that we can kind of evaluate here and just kind of discuss it a little bit more.
To me, one of the intentions of our approval in the last phase, because there wasn't significant detail about that, was it was intended to be simple in design. And a lot of the vocabulary, the design vocabulary of that pattern, which you have in the canopy, is all about transparency, as you've heavily emphasized. Whereas the elevator house is pure opacity. And I understand it obviously has to be, but like with both the layers of materiality and the color, which I understand the color being integrated into the other elements, it just seems like it's really drawing attention, including being illuminated, to something that is functionally a service building. So it's just creating an entirely new, you know, design element when, you know, I would think that finding a way to have it, I mean, and I get that it's supposed to look like trees and such, but there's nothing else of that type in the park that I can note of that scale. So that's a concern for the elevator cladding. Does anybody else, do you all feel like that is a simplification of the design, or that there's layers of ornamentation? I mean, if we can make this a dialogue, I would appreciate it, because this is an important conversation for the park.
I mean, I guess I'll say that for me, the cladding kind of evokes more of like supporting like almost like greenhouse structure, which I actually like, rather than something that's maybe a little more monumental in material. Again, not talking about scale and shape, but the material itself as something that matches the Greek theater.
Like crypt.
Right, like it could be, yeah, it could be. I like that it's differentiated enough as something that kind of looks like more of a garden structure. That's my opinion. Any other?
Well, I'm just curious, is there no other image of it that gives us a clearer impression of seeing
Just the tiny little edge was the rendering.
Well, we've got
images
of the cladding and.
Yeah, but they're detailed.
Yeah.
It's not kind of
Yeah,
contextual.
not a rendering type.
Yeah.
Hubert, is there a page that is there more in the package?
Yeah.
We're looking up a page number to go to.
Thank you. While they're looking for that, any more discussion about that?
I will say, and I know that this is going to be pretty boilerplate, but I did look at the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically about new construction in historic sites. And it says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. And the new work will be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with historic features, material, size, proportion, and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. And while I understand that the metal is like drawing reference from the new construction, it's like, it's referencing what is already new to create like a different pattern. But I don't really know that the pattern of the elevator house relates much to what was already there. It's more of a reference to what is being constructed. So I guess that, I don't know if I'm being clear, but that triangulation of reference kind of confuses me. Like it doesn't seem to really, same almost with the medallion, as I'll call it, the Rise medallion. Like it almost seems a little bit self-referential versus having compatibility. And I hope that that's clear. I don't know how.
But also, if you're getting into the Secretary of the Interior standards,
Which I know is not our guidelines,
I
but
know,
it does,
but
it has to relate.
I mean, they are the
something.
basis of.
yeah, it's the rationale, right? We're supposed to be able to look at the whole and know when things were added. They're supposed to be of the time in which they're added. So they're like tree rings. We're supposed to be able to pull it apart. I have to explain this to my clients all the time why you can't put old timey lighting on Lodo buildings. And so I think in that respect, the elevator house is more problematic than the medallion because it's trying to look like something else from a different time a little bit, unless I see a better rendering.
Based on page 56, there are some more drawings. It's not a rendering, but maybe it nonetheless helps to explain the.
So we have 3 application pieces.
Yeah, the actual page number, like A7, whatever.
Oh, A605.
There's also, I'll just say a rendering, I think, maybe you should check that it's accurate, A501.
Oh, yeah, I see that one now.
You said A605.
I remember seeing that before.
Is this, which application is it for us?
This is the second packet 2.
Packet 2, okay, thank you.
I'm about to pop it up on the screen.
Yeah, in this rendering, it's also not green.
And
Oh, yeah,
A501 actually. Yeah.
So Elizabeth, I have to say I'm a little confused because I thought you were referencing kind of this idea of, not kind of creating confusion about what's historic or not. And that being a guideline concept that both Civic Center guidelines and overall guidelines are also based on.
Mm-hmm.
But you were seeming to say that the elevator house was too much not historic?
No, just in
Or-
terms of the 2 issues we're weighing, I find the elevator house cladding slightly more problematic than I find the medallion. I don't find the medallion problematic. I find it clearly of the time where you can easily reference that is very 70s when you're looking at it. Where this is not necessarily, any particular time. It could be, which I don't necessarily have a problem with it other than I don't think it's pretty. Put a tree in front of it. That's not my job.
Okay, just to kind of take a temperature here on the elevator house, are there any other commissioners that would have I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths, but would not want to approve it as it's being presented, as it's designed and cladding today? Kind of where are we with that? We have at least one, I'm getting a sense, that couldn't approve it as is.
I feel like it's gonna come back to us
Well,
Like,
yeah, I
those
mean,
of us who are on this commission in 10 years or something, we're gonna be like that. Why did we do that?
oh, I see.
Yeah, I think that the ship has sailed on my concern. Mine's more mass form scale.
Mm.
Yeah, it's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
As far as that
So
goes.
how do you, materially, how do you solve it now?
You get what everybody does, you do a glass box. That's what everybody does.
I mean, I think that's why, again, I'll just say that I like it because I think it's clearly making it like, this is a support structure. It's not like, pay attention to me, but it's also not, it has its, it is trying to relate to what is around it, which isn't necessarily the Greek theater so much as the natural.
I also think it's successful. And I think it got better with the detail. The trouble, I think, that you could have avoided is through better renderings, explained it to us better.
What is the page A501? Just so, just for.
I think I saw it. It's like a pastel-y thing, yeah. That it's not as good as all your other photorealistic renderings, so it looks cartoonish.
So sorry to interrupt, can I ask another question?
You're not interrupting.
Yes, please ask another question.
So apologies if I'm misunderstanding the layers, but based on this rendering, is the green, the dark green that's referencing the other things, just the ribbing or also what's behind?
It's also what's behind it. So it's the same. So this, you're right, that image, yeah, exactly. That more pastel-y image is a little bit more abstracted in order to show the two layers. But yes, so it's both. So
it's
there
perforated. And
so there are two layers really to it. And so the bend, and maybe go one more time to 605 just to elaborate.
Yeah, if you would pass that, continue passing that down again.
So this really shows the depth of it, where the front layer, let's say, are these bent steel elements, which I do think they are actually, just to your point, that is a contemporary way of construction, like these kind of bent shapes is, I think that is of its time. And then the layer behind it is the perforated metal panels. So there is some relief and some depth to it. So it's not just a flat facade. But to answer your question, both of these are metal and both of these are painted with the same color.
And just to clarify, this piece that's being passed around is not, this is part of the canopy.
That's part of the canopy.
I just thought that while we're passing it.
Get our show and tell
Might as well make it
organized.
complicated.
Cool.
And I will say the best photorealistic rendering is actually in the applicant's presentation, and it's this view here that I have on the screen.
As far as color goes.
Yeah,
That's right.
and that is as close as I can get to it.
Yeah. I think it's fine.
Okay, so, again, I'm not trying to jump us around, but I do want to, I feel like we've talked quite a bit about that structure. And we, I think, still have some maybe things to land on with the We Will Ride medallion, as I'll call it. Are there any other elements as part of this application that you think need discussion or you have concerns about? No, okay.
Tiny bit, just the strip lighting on the cornice of the Greek Theater itself.
On the inside?
The outside. Was there some on the outside that was?
It's on the inside.
Okay, one of the renderings was confusing to me, and I was like, if it's running in the banding of the outside, I was gonna have an issue.
It's just
Okay.
the inside.
The inside, then never mind, I withdraw.
We're kind of both, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I was like, if we're doing that, let's talk
No.
about.
Yeah, that's a good clarification. Okay, so I'm going to then assume that we are ready to just kind of hash it out a little bit more about the We Will Ride medallion. And maybe there's not more to say, but just trying to move us forward as far as like if there's a motion that we can consider.
I have a quick comment,
Yes.
and I don't know how helpful this is to the applicants, but you could always approve with the exception of the work in the South Plaza. But I don't know how helpful that is for you to.
Would
Better than that.
would we need
Or
would we need to define?
Or approval with conditions that the South Plaza come back would be helpful.
That's not how that works. Conditions are only staff. I am not comfortable looking at it myself. So that's, I would say, condition that the South Plaza
be
removed and then it would come back at a later date. Anyways.
Adam had something to add.
Yeah, Adam Hernandez, Assistant City Attorney. I actually respectfully disagree with that. This has come as one package with a number of items. So at this stage, I don't think we can be approving portions of this package and not acting on other portions. The decision was made to bring this all as one package. So I think at this point, it's approval of the whole package, approval with conditions of the package, or denial. The other thing is, if you all feel that things are missing, you could continue this to another hearing if you feel like the drawings are not showing you what you need to see. But I don't think we can just start saying, okay, we're only going to approve, part of this, not act on other. It's kind of that whole congressional line item veto type of scenario. So that would just be my advice to the commission right now.
I mean, I guess that does speak to, I had the question of what is the limit of the South Plaza that we would be approving or not. So, so we have that advice from our attorney. But, okay, so thank you for that, Adam.
Yeah, I take a little issue with the elevator overrun. I think that it was used, or the canopy, that kind of same patterning or thought. And I'm not a huge fan of the cladding itself. I think there's some opportunities to like make it disappear a little bit more, and maybe it's pretty big and stands out quite big, and it's
Make
quite
it darken.
Yeah, and it's quite close to the amphitheater itself. And so I just think that there's maybe some more opportunity to look at that a little further.
Again, not the size and the placement,
No,
which is already.
No, I'm just saying because of the size and placement.
Right.
And therefore, I think the cladding needs more consideration.
Okay, so we have at least a few commissioners concerned about the elevator house. What about the medallion? Anything more to say about that, or is there just kind of?
I think it's appropriate. I really like it.
Thanks, Chris.
I kind of like it too.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I think it's thought provoking and unique, and it has a lot of character within itself, and I don't really take any issue with it.
I think for me, it's just the one guideline talking about use of materials in Civic Center and specifically paving. Asphalt is definitely not one of them. Maybe this isn't paving, maybe it's in our piece, yeah.
But if it was, then it wouldn't be on the paving level that you could walk on, right?
That's kind of the point.
It would be lower, it'd be higher, it'd be differentiated some way.
But ADA,
I think it's
they have to be able
really
to roll
lazy.
over it.
I think it's, I'm not gonna support it, but I'm just one.
Yeah, I have a feeling everybody's gonna like walk around it, which, I don't know if that's the intent or not, but it just seems like I don't want to touch it, or is it gonna become this piece that nobody wants to interact with? I don't know. It's just speculation.
Or treat specially.
Yeah.
I think if I'm from overseas and I come here for a visit and I see that, I think they missed the boat. I mean, it's not finished. Everything else sings. That does not.
Okay, well, I think anyone else want to say anything? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'm gonna put this adjusted motion on the screen. Staff are recommending approval. You figure out how to do this. I promise I know how to use Teams.
So can we do a motion, those two aspects are reconsidered?
You said no. I feel like
Because condition would just come to you and that's not fair.
we have removed elements from packages in the past. However, our attorney has advised us that the entirety of the packet is before the commission for review at the moment. That is the advice from the attorney.
Try a motion, I think you have the votes to pass it. Right?
Maybe.
Probably. Would someone like to make that?
I already made one. You guys gotta take a turn.
Okay. Normally as chair I wouldn't, but I'm just gonna put it out there and we're gonna see where the votes are. Okay. I move to approve application number 2025-COA-482 for the Phase 2 Design Detail Submittal at 101 West 14th Avenue, Parkway, the Greek Theater as per Civic Center Design Guidelines 3, 3B, C, E, F, G, H, I, X, Design Guideline 10.
Yeah.
Design Guidelines 2.55, 2.69, character defining features for the Civic Center Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report. There a second?
Okay.
Bree,
Yes.
has seconded. Okay. All those in favor?
Well, can we talk about the consequences of this vote before we vote?
Well,
Robert's Rules of Order.
I mean, I think I was moving us forward out of the deliberation just to see, so if you're,
I guess we'll have 5 votes one way or the other, won't we?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean-
there's 9 of us.
I guess I was,
There's 8 of us.
because there wasn't any, no one else was saying more. It seemed like the only way to kind of move us forward was to test it by voting. But if we do approve it, if there is a majority, a quorum, majority approving it, then it's approved. And that's, I think, the end of it. So that's the consequences.
Or the whole thing goes back.
Or if that motion doesn't pass, then we have to entertain a new motion to see if that passes. Okay? All right. So all those in favor of this recommendation, or this motion? Aye. Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All those opposed? Yeah.
The second.
Yep.
Nay.
Renee.
Okay, so Rusty, Emily, Chris, and Nick are opposed.
No, Rusty was for.
No, I haven't, I
Oh.
didn't actually.
Okay,
You're
so
having to
sorry.
sit here.
I thought I saw you raise your
Take
hand.
this out,
So
he's the
Yeah.
drama guy over here.
Yeah, he's hanging out.
Any
I was hoping to
abstaining?
just not be noticed.
I see you wearing black over there.
Are you abstaining, Rusty? Is that-
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion does not pass. So
You can make an amendment, ask to make an amendment now in parliamentary procedure.
we would have a new
Yeah,
It would be a
motion.
new motion.
A new motion. So would someone like to make a new motion?
I don't think we can make a motion that would be, according to the attorney's advice, that would be, right? Am I mistaken?
Historically, you've done something different than what the attorney just said.
There,
I tend not to listen to my attorneys,
Yeah.
but.
You could come up with some language whereby it falls to Brittany. So as it relates to reviewing alternative materials for the elevator overrun and for the plaza.
But I mean,
So
she's
I am
made it
not
clear,
comfortable with
she's
that.
made it clear that
I don't think that's fair
staff
to
is
her.
not able to review that on their own.
We all agreed to be here and make these hard decisions.
We just did.
Yeah.
So there could be another motion that we could see if it passes, but if it doesn't pass, I mean, we're essentially then moving on. It would have to come back again. The application as it is today.
What would the functional difference of continuance versus denial be in terms of like notification period?
A
or timeline?
continuance is if you do not feel as the commission that you have enough information to make a decision today. Not because it's because materials are unclear, not because you disagree with what is presented in the materials.
So you need to specify what information you need at the
I'm
next
just trying
meeting. Yeah. So if we don't have a majority vote on a motion today, then it will just have to come back, same application.
It could be the same application. Adam has advised that they could potentially come back without the South Memorial if that's the issue. I've heard the elevator house is also maybe an issue. But there are many ways they could come back.
Okay. Yes, Adam.
Again, just want to offer, I don't know if this has any practical effect, but if the commission feels one portion of this, or should I say the majority of this design review is approvable, one portion is not, they could just continue this hearing asking the applicant, you've heard our testimony, we want you to come back with something different from that other portion. In all practical effects, that's almost the same as a denial. Maybe just not using such harsh words, but you could also go that route of continuing it to a date certain to revise whatever portion you all feel is not meeting the guidelines right now. Again, it's probably 6 of one, half dozen of the other in terms of denial or continue to address one facet of the design review.
I think all of us or it sounds like all of us are supportive of the vast meat of the project. I mean, I think you guys did really well, detailing out, all but these 2 areas of concern. So it seems like, to me, a continuance would be a simpler option, knowing that these are 2 very targeted points of contention.
We would want to make sure, because it needs to be a date certain, we'd want to make sure that we can find a date.
I think the applicants may already have a date in mind.
Yeah.
Based on your schedule.
Yeah.
Correct.
Next week?
Yeah.
Next meeting,
Because that way you don't have to do all the notifications.
August 5th. Or,
Do we vote on a continuum?
yeah, we would have to, the motion would be.
I will say, if it's August 5th, this is a very tight time frame for me and the applicants.
Yeah.
To give you additional information.
Right.
So I would need additional information no later than next week. And the staff report would need to be published on the 29th. It's not impossible, but I would confer with the applicants.
Am I allowed, can I ask a question? I don't want to speak for the design team yet, but I think we would be requesting potentially clearer guidance on changes that you would like to see for the next round to be able to meet a timeline that is that tight.
Yeah.
Because I think we've talked a lot about maybe what's not working, but we're open to suggestions, but we can't go through all 10 design iterations in that time frame.
Is there any construction timelines, funding stuff that is of importance that we need to be aware of?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I know everything needs to be done yesterday.
Yeah.
Besides that,
We are a finalist for the Downtown Development Authority funding that's coming due, and we have an upcoming board